فما زلت ذا عفو عن الذنوب لم تزل تجود وتعفو منة وتكرما.
I've never heard of anyone going to the south of Turkey.
Southeast, I was lying. That's what they were telling me I'm at. When I asked them where I'm at, they're like, you're in the southeast of Turkey. I'm like, all right, cool. I said they were in the south, as far as I'm concerned. You know, when you're asking
southeast is in your blood, isn't it?
You know, when you're like, where are you? You're like, yeah, we're southeast a bit here. I'm like, yeah, we're in south. South of France, this is south of Turkey.
What's South Turkey called?
I ain't got a clue.
Turkey, innit?
South Turkey, innit?
That's not. It's not entirely. I don't think. Is it like beach or coastal?
Yeah, it's in between. It's not too far. Like, that's the airport you went to, but it's like there's another place called Fervi or something like that. It's in between. It's all right. It's coastal.
What do you think of the food?
Food is Turkish, isn't it? We have a lot of them here. It's just
after like 5 days, like
it's just kebab, isn't it? Like kofta and all of that type of stuff. Not a lot. If you've travelled well, you would realise that not a lot of places are cosmopolitan the way we are here, where you have every type of food there. So when you go to Scandinavia, there's a lot of Turkish food, but obviously, if you're not like, I know a lot of brothers from Scandinavia. I've been to Sweden and all those places a lot. Norway, you don't find Mexican, you know what I mean, and that type of stuff. So we're kind of spoilt here. I think it's just, I don't know, it's a consumer thing. I think the black community, we're just massive consumers. You know what I mean? Chinese shop full of Chinese people. You won't find them in yard shops or African shops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where you find us everywhere. So
that's finding everyone else.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. Turks is the same. I don't think I've ever seen a Turkish man in an African or Caribbean shop.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
To be fair, like there's a Nigerian shop just there in Jummah, it's booming in terms of like English people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're like English.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
The English, they do that. They do everything.
And then they'll take it.
But that's what I was going to say, that because it comes from
Jollof is coming soon.
Yeah, it comes from that history that they have of exploring, innit?
Colonialism. That's actually what drove up the price of oxtail recently. White people decided they wanted to start making oxtail and putting it all over TikTok.
It's mad expensive.
The price just
It's mad.
I mean, MJ was fuming.
Yeah, oxtail's mad. They throw it away in some parts of the world. Now, when I was in Egypt, I used to always ask for it in the butchers. They'll say no, until one butcher understood what I said, and he went to the back and said, "We throw this away, man."
Why?
They just don't eat it. It's not a delicacy.
You know, it's like a lot of the food that
it's not something they eat.
We eat, especially Africans. It comes from the fact that you've got to use every single part of it. So like shaki or tripe.
It's a for them. Yeah, they don't eat it. It's just a part of the body they don't eat. It's like tongues. They might not have no tongues in there. Like, what are you guys eating this for?
That's why in Nigerian you see some things you've never seen. Right, let's get into it.
Ready?
This one.
No, you go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome back to Jollof after Jummah. This is episode
61.
Alhamdulillah. We've got another special guest, alhamdulillah. We've got brother Musa here, who's in fact, I'll say this. I was going to say it at the end, but I'll say it at the beginning. Why I say special guest here is because alhamdulillah, you made it easy to have you on. And with this guesting, as you, obviously I know you've sampled in podcasting before. Getting people to come on, last minute cancellations. Every time they message you, you're scared to check your phone. So,
it's difficult.
Just making it easy. Not being on the bougie thing, not doing.
Yeah, it's difficult. I know it is. It's difficult. Yeah. I'm just if you're work wise in terms of if you schedule things in. And you're good at appointments and stuff. Once something's scheduled in, it's scheduled in. You know what I mean? I think if you're dealing with people that are not good with appointments or even having like rotors or just calendars or anything like that, you're going to be in trouble.
Do you want to just, in case people don't know who you are, do you want to just give yourself a little brief intro?
Quick brief, I think.
Not brief.
We've been, I think, where I'm at now, I'll just be known as Musa, online, revert to Islam, founder of Resole, and that's where we're at now. I think prior to that, there's a lot of work that we've done with like Roadside to Islam and stuff like that. So, but I think where we are now in this chapter, that will be me. I think it will be easy to find, and I'm sure you guys can put some links in and stuff like that and catch up. But we can just conversate and take it from there.
Cool. So about yourself. So you mentioned, I don't know what to get into first. You know, let's take it back a bit. Obviously, Roadside to Islam. You mentioned that, and you mentioned some chapters to your kind of story. What we don't really want to do too much is we don't want to come here and you tell stories that you've told 100 times.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You don't want to just repeat something that you see on different platforms. So we want to talk about more kind of up to date stuff. But just for a bit of context, that whole kind of Roadside to Islam thing, how does that kind of tie in?
I think
as a person.
Today, I think Roadside to Islam is new to a lot of people today. Anyway, I think it's generational, right? So I think it's from a certain era.
I think, sisters.
Yeah. See, so I think like today you'd have different in brackets youth Dawah going on. Different people kind of in that space. But I would say that Roadside to Islam, Abu Bakr, I would say that was definitely the founding. That was the first time I thought we saw young people, turn the camera on and get in front of it from an Islamic standpoint for me and start talking how they normally talk in the playground or how they talk on the streets, you know what I mean? Rather than get in front of the camera and then put on a persona that's not truly them. Maybe a persona they're trying to transcend into, but it's not really them, do you know what I mean? So a lot of the time it's easy to put on a camera and put your back up straight and start trying to talk in a way that you think a Muslim should be portrayed, do you know what I mean? But in reality is that Muslims, wear different colours, shades from different parts of the world, different cultures, different accents. So I think it was the first time people saw young people with, local British accents talking the talk and just trying to also plea to the young generation not to just come off the streets and to kind of change their way of life. And I think Abu Bakr would agree as well. And that was coming from a place of ignorance, but a place of care. You know what I mean? We cared for the people that was out there on the streets, but we were ignorant in terms of the best way to approach them. But I think as time went, gained some understanding, some knowledge, connecting with our teachers in the community, and I allowed it to be a more rounded message to the young people. And that's why it still has a kind of an impact till today for the people who come across those videos.
I'm glad you said that, because for when I'm thinking of Jollof to Jummah, like what we're trying to do, literally, especially that line you said about kind of speaking in a way that is true to yourself and not trying to portray something that's not you. I think that kind of ties in with us, and I think that kind of literally what you said, I might even just bottle that up and use that as our message, because it's literally is what we're trying to do. Because like Roadside to Islam, when I'm thinking back, it wasn't something that I really resonated with because I was 15, 16, even younger. But I used to see my sisters watching the videos. I used to see my sisters kind of posting the videos, sending it to my cousins, and literally that kind of that motive that you lot had, I'd say it's very similar to what we're trying to do here. So like, I think I definitely say it's like it's like an inspiration, and I didn't even deep it until you said it. But like, that's proper, like it mirrors so sickly, man.
Yeah, it's important, man. It's important that the people that you're trying to deliver that message to can understand you. I feel like a lot of the time, or at that time there, it felt like, it's even till now, when you see someone, a religious figure, an imam, a priest, a rabbi, you always feel like they're distant from you. You know what I mean? Like, how do I go to such a holy individual and start telling him about my life? He's most probably so holy, he's never understood, he won't understand the message that I'm trying to give him or what I'm trying to explain to him. There's just that barrier because of who you think they are or the level that you think that they're at. So I feel like when you come across young people who are practicing their religion and you're able to then tell them, this is what I'm going through, or what's the best way for me to kind of go through this, or who should I seek advice from, it just makes it easier for you to talk, because you just feel like this guy's not going to judge me, he looks like me, he was where I was not too long ago. And I feel that's just important, man, because there's people on your platform that will message you guys, leave comments, who just feel like you lot are in the right place to help them where they're at now. They might outgrow that as they learn and they grow in their religion, but at this time, you're going to be the right person for them to contact, because they'll just feel like the imam's a bit too far-fetched for me to be able to go straight to him, you know what I mean?
So, Barakallahu, we speak a lot about the kind of state of the Ummah, the state of, the urban London, inner city kind of Muslim community that we're living in now. And obviously, like what we just said, what you was kind of doing then was to address the kind of state that your community was in then. So like can you kind of take us back to painting a picture of what things were like back then? And maybe
back then,
with now.
Yeah, I feel like because YouTube wasn't how it was today, I feel like right now people are spoilt for choice in terms of students of knowledge online and places for you to learn your religion, learn how to pray, learn so many things about Islam. There's so many aspects of Islam that they just wasn't taught then, and they wasn't even available then. Relationships, even like marriage and, you know, things like that. And even like there's so many things online I feel like that they wasn't present then. So it was kind of difficult. A lot of the time people were just trying to find their path. It was very raw, very early. A lot of the Dawah was quite new as well. It wasn't widespread. Not a lot of people knew what Islam was, but then the Sunnah was strange. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, because a lot of people coming from cultural backgrounds of Islam, you know, something that this is what my father and my forefathers did, and it wasn't real. And then it was that part of that generation of young people also fighting against their parents and the Islam that they taught them. So it was very new, but at the same time, this group of young people were quite ignorant, you know what I mean? So they didn't know how to give the message. They didn't know how to tell their elders that that's not really the correct way of Islam. Yeah. So it was just more just bumping heads and aggression, and then some of it was chasing people away from the religion. It was just a difficult time. It was like a lot of learning, you know what I mean? It was really early steps for, I think, the community here in London. And I feel like that era took a lot of hits for where we are today. But still, I think the devices that the young people have now, they've even got even worse as well. So now the fights become just as hard, or not even harder. So as much as they might have more, you know, access to more stuff, but at the same time they have access to more haram. You know, So like you have this mobile phone that has information, you know what I mean? And the amount of information that are on these phones is just, it's incredible to understand. It's just so much that you never would have thought. You know what I'm saying? It's in the palm of your hand, where like these phones have made young people like book flights and just disappear and, you know, run away from home. And without this phone, you wouldn't have been able to do that. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't have access to something like this. So I feel like, yeah, man, we was in a different time then to where we are now. Like even YouTube and all of that stuff, no one really knew much about it. It was there, but it was like, it wasn't to where it is today, and having platforms like this as well. So it was a difficult time, but I think it was a good time. And I feel like a lot of people from that period, some of them are still busy practicing, doing good stuff. And again, some of them have just been worn out, tired. You know what I mean? They're not where they should be today, and Allah knows best why. But I think you guys will see that yourselves in your generation, that you'll find a lot of young people will be practicing. And as time goes, you guys get older, you have more responsibilities, children, family, things become more important, and then you start to put things into their right places, and you realize, just an example, you start thinking, is that as important as this? And if it's not, it falls off, and then people start looking for you and say, but we really enjoy, like, it could be your podcast. You know what I'm saying? You go to this part of the world, that one, and all of a sudden people are like, what happened to the podcast? But it's, I think it's about being firm upon certain things that you're trying to bring around and know what they mean. But I think with things like podcasts now, you can always kind of grow and develop and change. But the type of work we were doing, especially like with Roadside to Islam, it was a lot of getting out there, being in the community. It was quite difficult.
It was.
Roadside to Islam, I would say it was like 2000 and what? I'd say the peak of Roadside to Islam was like 2012 or something like that, 2013.
A lot of like, well, to be fair, I guess that kind of influx of lots of kind of people in South London or London area becoming Muslim, like lots of new Muslims.
Yeah, that was earlier.
Before like 5, 6 years.
That was earlier, yeah. That was like 2006, 2005. A lot of people were becoming Muslim in South London, especially in the Brixton area, not too much in Peckham. But that was like 2005, 2006. There was a load of, Islam. And again, I think that was with the fact that Brixton Masjid was a revert masjid, was run by a group of people who converted to the religion of Islam, or reverted, whichever way you want to say it. I think it then allowed their children and their cousins and their family members and people from the community to kind of take to them, because it wasn't something strange. Because when you're not Muslim and you look at a masjid that's predominantly Asian or predominantly Arab, to a black community, that's strange. That's not a place for us to be. Do you know what I mean? So having a masjid where the imam's Jamaican, you're like, oh, what's going on there? You know what I'm saying? It makes you feel like you can be in there.
It's mad because when I was secondary school, Brixton Mosque was a no-go for me. I went to St. Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
Literally, and obviously because people, in my family and that, Brixton Mosque was a no-go, and now you see the way I proper love that place. It's mad how times changed. Would you say there was a lot of ignorance there?
Yeah, it was.
Feel like people feel like there's not a lot of ignorance now because there's a lot of information, but what I'd say the question is that are we now like a lot more knowledgeable? Is there a lot less ignorance, or is it fake ignorance? And back then, was it genuine ignorance, would you say, kind of?
Yeah, I feel like the students of the knowledge today, I'll just base it, because for me, there's one thing I like to do, like when I think making judgment on something, especially when it's Islam, I like to make judgment on the default setting. And I think the default setting to me in any type of thing, when I make judgment, is the best at the best. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people like to make judgment on the exception and not the rule. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I like to go straight to the rule rather than the exception, where you find that. So if I look at the level of students of knowledge, example, who are graduating from places like Medina University today, they're graduating with, higher levels than the previous generation. But then sometimes if you look at the implementation of what the previous generations or people who were graduating, it's like their dawah had a bigger impact, and it's still having a massive impact till now. So I feel like people are becoming more clever, and there's more knowledge within the community, but is the implementation of this knowledge being implemented how it was before? I don't think so, because I feel like we lived in an era before where you could have a private life. It's not really like that now, right? Everything's social, everything's out there. So it's very difficult for people to live private lives. And I feel like there's an aspect of Islam that you need a level of privacy to be able to flourish as a community, because of where we live and where we are in the UK. There's all these eyes on us and people making judgments. It makes it difficult for people to practice their religion to a certain extent. And I feel like that stops levels of implementation. So like there was things like when I became Muslim, listening to music was a no-no. It was just not, you couldn't walk into a mosque and it would be accepted to be a Muslim rapper. It just wasn't accepted, you know what I'm saying? So example, people like myself coming from a musical background, we knew we had to quit music before we could actually practice our religion to the best of our ability. Whereas now, rappers come into the mosque, it's normal, do you know what I mean? It's not an issue like before.
Do you think that's a bad thing?
That's what I was going to ask,
whether it's a bad thing, I think...
It's not our decision to say...
No, it's 100%. Haram is haram. It's a bad thing. Yeah. So I got no doubt about that. But it's just the reverence that you have for a parent. I feel like, children who do certain... Like, children who misbehave and do certain things, but they don't do it in front of their parents. There's a level of respect and shyness to be like, I might be taking the piss outside the house, but I'm not going to do that in front of mom and dad. Do you know what I mean? I can't do that. So for me, the mosque is mom and dad. Do you know what I mean? The mosque is the parent, is the place of shyness. So it's for you to be taking the mick and still think you can come to the masjid and no one can't tell you nothing. There's a level of shyness that's disappeared, where our generation, we knew that, I can't be going to the mosque and I'm doing music. I've got to be shy about this. Whereas 100%. Now, people don't have to be shy, because that level of shyness has just deteriorated as time has gone, and it's been more acceptable, and to the point, like, we live in a time where, like, imams will kind of, they will facilitate for people who want to make music or who live that lifestyle, who not to get them, not to make, so it's like, I want to give you an olive branch, I want to just make you feel like cool, don't feel isolated. So then they go over the mark to make them feel comfortable.
Was it us that had the conversation about, obviously I can't say too much detail, but about...
Oh yeah.
Just generally like standards.
I feel like this is kind of like part 2 from what we recorded last week.
Literally, essentially, standards going down. Obviously, it has 2 effects. It means that more people might be able to enter the fold free. But it means that the standing of people that are inside,
the quality just dips.
And sometimes it might be good now in the short term, but just standards decrease in general. We're all you've got 1,000 Muslims, but they're all useless. What does it mean?
And I feel like, as we know, if we're trying to find people without fault, then we're going to be looking a long time. but I just feel like everyone has a position, and there's places that people can sit in. As for myself, there's certain seats that I see in the masjid, they're only reserved for people of knowledge. They're not reserved for me. So I don't put myself in that position. As much as they might want to call me, I'll be like, respectfully, I'm not coming to that platform. 100%, so I feel like within that, there's levels where you're a rapper, there's a space for you in a mosque. There's a seat for you. And that section there is for the rappers and for the entertainers, because the house of Allah is a place for the sick. You know what I mean? We have to go there sick to get cured. So it's not a place for everyone in there is coming in there and you're all righteous. There's no sick people. No, that's where the cure is. The cure is in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then the doctors have to play their position. Do you know what I'm saying? We can't allow the sick to be sitting as if they're the doctors. They're the ones that have the cure. You don't have no cure. You're here because you're sick. Yeah. So you just have to listen. You got nothing to say. Yeah, you come here to get cured. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the problem. It's just the lines being blurred within the masjid or within the community on who should be calling to Islam or who should be giving the message. So for me, generally speaking, if people just want to talk about, the beauty of Islam and what it's done for them, that's not a problem. But I just feel like it's very dangerous in terms of who's giving the go ahead or who's signing that, who's co-signing that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? There's certain things that it's not befitting for an imam to co-sign, and this is one of the things that I love about some of our teachers, man. They're like, we'll invite them to come and eat food, and they're like, when I'm not gonna come and eat food with you guys, not because I don't want to or because I don't love you lot for the sake of Allah, is that tomorrow when you and your wife have a disagreement, I'm gonna have to judge between you as your imam. And what am I doing judging between you when you were feeding me food last week and we were laughing? It's gonna be difficult. It's conflict of interest. So this is what I love about our teachers, is that they will say, for that reason, I decline coming out to eat with you guys because tomorrow I'm making judgment between you lot. And that's, and that just reminds you that, okay, there's levels to this thing. It's not because you don't want to be, okay, we get it. And I feel like those lines have to be kept, for us to have, for us to be taken serious to a certain degree. So it's difficult, but at the same time, right is right, wrong is wrong. And I just feel like we have to stand upon certain principles for us to be able to benefit our community. Or the young people are just sitting there thinking, right, the imam's chilling with my imam. Okay, I can do my thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of, I don't know how much you know about that Old Kent Road Mosque, the Nigerian.
Yeah.
And
that's foundation.
With the youth and all that stuff, that's what we're involved in, And when we deep it, like the way that we used to look at the elders, so like let's say like the brothers that are like your generation, the way that there's things that we just wouldn't do, couldn't say, the level, like like mum and dad level. These brothers are only like 4, 5, 6 years older than us, but the levels, it's not the same.
It's nowhere near the same.
And I don't see myself as being like soft or overly like modely coddling to the youngers and that. Yeah. But it's just not the same.
It's just
And if you were to try and do that, what's mad is that, and it kind of goes back to what we're saying. If we were to try and implement the same kind of standards as them and implemented, the circles will be empty. And it's mad. So it's a catch-22. It's like, do you lower like us being nice to them or whatever? Because look at my man. Like when we try and deal with them properly, you won't get their parents will come in and say, why are you beating my son?
I think it's difficult, but I think we just have to change our methods, but keep the principles the same. And I feel like it's something. Example, if we want to compare it to football. Like that Jose Mourinho type of coaching is done. You can't just come and blast the guys. You need that. There's different levels of ways to coach than like the new footballers. You see it. They say it all the time. They're soft. It's not like they can play. It's not like back in the day. Yeah. So when the managers like Jose come in, they just lose the dressing room. And I feel like it's important for us not to lose the dressing room with the young people and understand that they're different now. Some of them we got to just show them that love and put the arm around them and have them one-on-ones, and also and have great communication skills and great people skills. And I feel like sometimes, as they say as well, like it's not that they don't love the message, or it's just how maybe we're delivering it. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes it's very easy to underestimate the importance of how to deliver that message. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's why if we look at the NBR, we look at the scholars of our time in terms of the cultivation that they went through. It's not a coincidence that they went through this level of cultivation, and then they were able to deliver a message which is timeless. It's with the books are in our houses, like we're just sitting there naming people, like example Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah. It's like that Sheikh never thought in a million years man them in Peckham would just be calling out his name every minute. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it never thought that. But if you look at his cultivation and how he was raised, he's coming from a household of scholars, his dad was a scholar, and the level of the way how he studied and things. If you look into his life, you come to realize there's a process. It happened by accident. It's not happened by accident. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like sometimes when we're delivering these messages, or we're just delivering Islam, like there's no message bigger than the message of Islam and the Quran, and trying to teach that to a younger generation. You're carrying something very heavy, and sometimes we have to look at ourselves and say, right, do I know what I'm trying to pass over? And am I doing it justice? Because it's a serious message. Because a lot of the time it could be us rather than the young people. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I said a lot of the time it's like that Jose thing, where Jose's thinking, these players are dead. But then there's other managers that are turning up and they unlock them, and they're serious players. So a lot of the time is like, are you approaching this properly, and are you understanding the new generation and the type of difficulties that they have? And sometimes it's just to hear them out, understand that the world that they're in, and then understand how they learn in that world, because their methods of learning and understanding can be quite different to where we are. And I feel like that's where we are, man. It's difficult. It's difficult times.
I'm gonna move on a bit. Is that right? Yeah. Resole. Talk to us about Resole, man.
Resole, man, is trying to just a lot of the work that we're trying to do is legacy based, man. We're trying to create work that outlives us, generational, just continues to go, where people come, and people can just come and be like, yeah, man, this organization is 200 years old, and this is what they've been doing, and this is how it started, and being a part of that, and then also teaching the community how to build those organizations. And again, I feel like with myself and Abu Bakr Real Side to Islam, or to say Sport Academy, is that where, for my instance, I don't know anyone who precedes me in this field that I'm in. Non-profit organization from the Muslim community, mainstream, working with like mainstream individuals and organizations and brands and companies who's been here, that I can ask them, right, how did you do that? Or how did you have those meetings, and how did you represent yourself? I don't know it. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like
I'm gonna ask that today, don't I?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's hard. So then again, I find Abu Bakr was kind of the same with Spot, where we know charities. For example, we know that Brixton Masjid is a charity. We know that the Nigerian Masjid is a charity. But in terms of the work that we're trying to do at this level, we can see the Asian community, been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? We can see other communities, but we're saying, where do we see this from us? That we can go and sit to an uncle and say, yeah, uncle, so how did you start that? And we don't see it. We know it happens, but it's the general way of charity. We send money back home, we build a masjid, we do that, but how do we systemize it? How do we get it so people donate and we become to grow? Because when you look at some of these charities, an organization, when you look at these charities, some of them, examples, charity commissions, you can go on there, they bring in like £120 million a year. Like say example, Muslim Aid or something. And then you see like 80 million of that's from the government. So most of their funding comes from government because the government gets money that's for charity, and then they give it to people that now can handle money. Can distribute, and they save. So we think, how do you get to that position? Because a lot of the time we think that we have to be asking for this money from our community when we don't. But we just have to show that we're able to deal with money in a certain way and be able to get it to the right people. So learning these things, again, I always tell him, like, because a lot of people will hit you up and be like, yo, how did you start that? How do you do that? And when you're learning, it's very difficult to also be sharing information. Do you know what I'm saying? But I always say, don't get flustered or kind of get upset with them. It's just that they're in awe of what you're doing. They love to see what you're doing, and they want to be a part of that or create something themselves. So they're just eager to start a process that you might not be ready to even share with them, because it's chapters that we're trying to complete and then go on to. And I feel like maybe 4 or 5 years from now, there might be a template. I can say, Lord, that's the template. But again, you have to go through this. to be able to share that to the community so that the next generation that come can have better and bigger organizations, you know what I mean? And we can have more. And again, I think it's just similar to Roadside to Islam, because now you see so many different platforms again, but I don't know, like I always say to him, these platforms for me, without that, they don't come. Do you know what I mean? They don't stem from nowhere. People were inspired and able to then pick up cameras and do stuff. And I said, again, I think we're going to see a generation 4 or 5 years from now of young people starting their own charities and doing great work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's massive.
I think what you just said is so important about learning these things about building organizations. I think, like you mentioned, that we see a lot of other communities do it, and usually they do it a lot better than us.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I've even had conversations with people where, because they're doing it so much better than we are, sometimes we might even assume that they're doing something dodgy.
Yeah, yeah.
And we just don't know what to do.
100%.
So I think that's so important, the steps you've mentioned about learning to build these organizations.
Yeah, these organizations, because they've had opportunities to try, fail.
Yeah.
Like they're on, like, some of them are on their 5th organizations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you have these conversations, they're like, yeah, I had 3 or 4 before, it failed, it didn't work right, had to come again. We're still on number 1. Do you know what I mean?
People don't like fail at all.
Yeah.
We don't like,
I feel like
it comes from not being able to. Sometimes you can't afford to. But
Yeah.
I feel like we've had this conversation so many times, like my brothers and stuff as well, and I feel like because there's kind of like 2nd, 3rd generation British in this country, we're not really business oriented as other ethnicities are. Because of, like I said, where our parents come from, usually what they drive at is education. We're not really wired. You don't see many parents telling your kids that you don't have to go uni, set up your own business, whereas like Asians are quite business oriented, and so
whenever you go, you got to build your foundation before. Well, you got to build your foundation. There's a mentality before you.
Yeah, exactly. Before you can do that, and which is what I guess we're kind of doing now in this country, where I still see kind of black people as we are still kind of building a foundation. As a whole,
but we don't have to. I think it's a mental. What do you think? I think maybe it's a
mentality.
Yeah,
it is, and also it's not. It's just also taking time out as well to be like, okay, who are the wealthy black people in this country? Who are the billionaires? Who owns what? Who's doing what? Because they're not going to show it to you, right? It's not going to be publicized like that. So getting to know who owns what and who does what sometimes can then get you to unlock something else and say, well, okay, I didn't know that. Like when I found out that Gatwick was owned by the Nigerian guy, I was shocked. You know what I'm saying? I think, oh, these old Gatwick airport, it's like a whole massive airport. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, but we're flying in and out. People are just like loving to come into England, the UK, and sometimes the people that are black that are in there must probably be disrespected and dealt with a different way.
Yeah.
You're like, some black guy owns it, and you're like, how does that happen? You know, I feel like a lot of information doesn't get out in terms of the wealthy individuals within our community and how they got there. But then again, that comes from the fact that when you're wealthy in a place like, especially in the West anyway, and you're, you know, a minority, especially black people, I wouldn't say all minorities, I would just say us, because we're a threat for some reason. So it's that we feel like I got out or I made it to this level. I can't take the mick. I can't
keep
allow.
Put
my head down and kind of cut through. But it's difficult, man, because other communities, like you said, man, they push more entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And as much as they do good grades, and I just feel like our community, especially our parents, they would just solve that ticket of university or solve problems. But the university is not solving a lot of problems these days, man. It's difficult. It's creating a lot of debt, a lot of problems, a lot of, you know, people that I come across who have spent so much time in that level of education and haven't got the experience and now finding themselves doing jobs that they never. So it's difficult, man. It's difficult.
May Allah allow us to open our minds.
I mean.
Let's go back to
Resource,
in terms of can you like describe, obviously it's like you said, it's a charity, but the model is not your typical.
No, because we're a non-for-profit organisation.
Sorry to interrupt you. I guess for the people that I guess don't know, if you could just summarize exactly what Resource is.
So Resource is a non-for-profit organisation. Our main aim is to distribute footwear, you know, to anyone who needs it. underneath the breadline. So the working poor, the unhoused community, refugees, unaccompanied minors, people being released out of prison, people being released from care, young people being released out of care. So just anyone who doesn't have adequate footwear, we try to work with the general public and the sportswear brands who have these shoes to make sure that they go back to the right people, right? And then once you get into products and you get into consumerism, you realize there's a lot of wastage. You know what I'm saying? So prior to entering the charity, or prior to even starting the charity and just wanting to make a difference and give back, once we got into it, or once I started it, I come to realize that there's a lot of wastage within the sneaker industry, and there's enough shoes that get thrown away that are brand new that can put shoes on everyone's feet, let alone people having to donate and stuff like that. But then there's a lot of wastage because people buy a lot of shoes and hoard a lot of shoes. So it just allows us to be able to distribute shoes across the country as a whole, and also send shoes abroad to orphanages in Caribbean, Africa, and we're trying to reach out to South America. And one of the things that we try to do is that while we pick these locations, because we believe these are the locations that the brands maximize off their athletes who are South American, who are African and Caribbean, but a lot of the time these places are where people are still walking around barefoot, you know what I mean, and don't have adequate footwear. So I'm thinking if you can use their stars and their individuals to kind of sell your product, then you must be able to give back, you know what I mean. So we kind of pinpointed these areas that we like to work with, that's abroad, and then just working with the brands and knocking on their doors. But I guess with Reso as a charity, I wanted to create something that wasn't your normal charity, right? So I always have high aspirations in terms of, if I want to create something, I'm not just going to create example, not to name drop, but I don't know, them Red Nose Day charities. There's just like a Red Nose or Oxfam or whatever it might be, because within that branding, I feel like if I was on the main road fundraising for Oxfam, once I put the t-shirt on to fundraise, as soon as I'm done, I want to get it off. It's not a brand that I want to be. It's
not wavy.
It's not wavy. That's the end of the day. It just doesn't make sense. And that's something I used to tell Buck with the SWAT camera. I said, you got to make it wavy, because forget what we think charity looks like, and people want to tell us our charity is called, I don't know, no disrespect, I don't know, Mercy Charity. It's not wavy. Why does it have to be called Mercy Charity? We get that's just an aspect of charities to be merciful. But we need to make it, because every aspect of it has to allow us to maximize on the brand, to then be able to bring in as much money as possible to help people, right? So cool. So I'll enter in the shoe sector and seeing how cool it is and how wavy it is. It was like, there's no way I'm going to have an organization that distributes footwear and that's distributing some of the cleanest footwears getting released, and the branding doesn't match up. You know what I'm saying? So coming with Reso just allowed us to create a brand that fits in to your average sportswear brand, to your average brands that you see on the main road, whether it's like a JD or a Foot Locker. I wanted something that looked the part. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think with that, it helped us a lot, creating something like that, to step into the sector. So I think when it came to having conversations with Nike, Adidas, and your household names, they looked at a brand that kind of complemented their own and what they were doing. And that's very important, because the brands are very, they're very aware of their branding. You know what I mean? Nike don't want to be associated with anything that puts their brand down. So if they look at your brand, they're like, if we do anything with you, we're just gonna look like we ain't got a clue what we're doing, or
it's not on brand. It don't match.
It doesn't match. So I knew that from the get-go, that I had to create something that was on par, or something that looked like it was selling a product, but it was actually free. That was the main thing that I said to myself. I need to create something, that looks like it's actually selling something. But when you get there, you realize, how's this free? You know, what's going on here? What's the catch? And I think that had to be important, because another thing, before we even got the hub and we were just handing shoes out from the back of a car, it was always in the back of my mind, I need to have a space where young people can come pick up shoes because they're in need of shoes with their parents, and not feel like they're in a charity shop. It's very important, because nobody wants to be seen dead in a charity shop. You know what I'm saying? So it's always important, because if you're creating a charity shop, you're not gonna get the young people in there.
Yeah.
No one's going.
No one's going to see this in a charity shop. Yeah.
No one, because the peer pressure at school is because you ain't got good shoes.
Yeah.
And then now you're shopping in a charity shop, you're taking the mick. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to add up. So coming to resale and picking up a pair of trainers, a pair of Jordans, or whatever it might be, you feel like you're like one of the lucky ones, right? So that was important, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's always nice to be able to kind of give back to the young people. And for me, again, coming from roadside to Islam, one of the things I realized when trying to get young people on the right path was, what do you have to offer me now? Like, forget all of this, 2 years, 3 years, I got degree, and what are you doing for me now? I need a pair of shoes, or I need something now. What are you doing? And a lot of time, if you're not able to do nothing for a young person there and then those vices and peer pressures that he has that are offering him something there and then, they're going to do that. Yeah. So it was important that if I tell a young person, come to the resale hub, I want to talk to you about being on the straight and narrow, bettering yourself, and not selling drugs just to buy trainers and tracksuit. He's going to say to me, so where am I going to get it from? And he'd be able to be like, okay, hold that, let's talk. Do you know what I mean?
Just the same thing they do too.
That's what they do. So that's important, man.
Do you know what I think is quite interesting about that? Because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. You know how we kind of have this trend, and it's not necessarily just to be honest, it is mostly with young people, but there's something you've mentioned a lot before as well, this idea of having to have something now and delayed gratification and people not really wanting that. But I guess what you've decided to do is kind of speak to them in that language rather than trying to move them away from it.
No, because I think people that try to move away from that forget that they were young once. Yeah. And the minute you forget you was young, you've lost all modes of connection to a young person. The minute you forget how that peer pressure felt of going in on close day, not looking the part, and you forget how real that is, realer than World War III. It's real
at the time.
The time, like no parent, no one can walk into your face and tell you that Monday morning is going to be a minor. It's not a minor. It's a big deal. So the minute you start telling this young person,
best Ralph Lauren Polo,
Ralphie days, everything. So the minute you tell a young person it's not that serious, you forgot. You forgot. Like you forgot how it felt. You forgot the emotions, the feelings, the pressures, and everything it took to walk through, knowing that there's man watching me, or it's like, does man know this ain't the real deal? There's man like, is it too big? Can man tell it's my cousins? All of that stuff you forgot. So you need to remember that, to realize, you know what, you need this just to get through this week. Get through this week, and then we can talk. Like example, and you can't think with a clouded mind. A lot of the time, like, I remember when I was here trying to learn Islam, it was always difficult. Went to Egypt, was able to learn, and one of the teachers just said that, listen, the problem is that over there your mind is clouded. Here you got a free mind. You're not thinking about the things you were thinking about, so now you're able to learn. And it's the same with a young person. He's not going to hear anything if he's got in his head, he needs certain things. I need trainers, I need this. And you're here telling him about 2-3 years process. He's not listening to you because his mind's clouded. As soon as you give him what he needs, which is a minor, because once you grow up, you come to realize, like, Jordans, what's that? It's not a big deal. But there and then it is. Once you give him his pen, he's like, cool, I got my Jordan. He's just thinking, Monday, I'm back. All right, cool, say nothing. What are you saying? Now he's listening. You know what I'm saying? So it makes it, it's just important. And so for us, it's just a no-brainer, and it allows us to be able to talk to young men, young girls, and girls are the same. When you hear a young girl's gone missing and her parents can't find her and she's running county lines for some young boys, it's not because she's buying a house or a car. It's because her mum can't buy the iPhone or the pair of Jordans, whatever. And these youngers have just told her, cool, just go up country for a couple days, you'll be back in about 2 or 3 days, you'll be back with £300 or £400, you get yourself your Jordans, you look fresh. They think, well, I'm going to tell mum I'm going to my friends for 2 days sleepover. Then the friend says she didn't got there, now she's gone missing. You know what I mean? But what was it for? It was for things that we have in the community, or things that are also being wasted through products and brands and stuff like that. So for me, our main thing is with resale, in a nutshell, is to get the product and give it to the right person, the people that need it, you know what I mean? And through that, also allow young people to be a part of sharing and giving back, because there's a lot of people who are wealthy or who are better off, who have a lot of trainers and have a lot of sneakers. And another thing is, I like to ask the community to give back something other than money, You know what I mean? I feel like our community is tired of giving money. And I feel like one thing that people are also happy to do is that they're thinking, if I give these trainers away, it allows me to go and buy myself a new pair. Do you know what I mean? So rather, so people think to themselves, if I give you money, where am I going to buy my trainers from?
Yeah.
But if you're like, give me your old ones that are not dead, and then buy yourself a new pair, they're like, cool, let me go and get fresh, and then give away my old pairs. But a lot of the time, because we have a standard of footwear that we take in, they're always fresh, and I appreciate that.
What's the standard?
Standard is just that anything that you would be happy to receive as a gift yourself. Yeah. If you're not happy to receive that, no one else.
Don't give it to me. Yeah. Makes sense. So 2 questions I have. So I guess the first one is it just necessarily that so people come in, give you shoes, and then anyone that needs shoes can come into the hub and you can just give it to them free?
Yeah, there's a process. They come in, they self-refer. We ask them a set number of questions. We take their details, telephone number. If we see that they fit the criteria to receive a free pair, we call them in, they come and pick them up. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you're not able to come back for 4 months. So every 4 months you can come back for a pair of shoes. That's that's 3 pairs a year. And we think that's adequate for a person to have. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So every 4 months, if you're in need of it, you can come back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And so I guess building yourself up as an organisation, I'm guessing in the beginning, am I right in saying you would have relied heavily on like donations from people before you could start speaking to other brands about then giving you shoes?
So there's still, even now, I think the brands is minimal. I'd say from the like, you know, we've distributed £1 million worth of shoes, and I'll say from that is, I would say 85% is from donations. I wouldn't say so. I'll say 15% from brands, because that 15% is a small percentage of young people that we deal with in terms of projects. So if we have a project where we're going to get a group of young people from like an organisation, care leavers, or young people who've just been released from prison, then I'll contact the brands and I'll say, look, I've got 10, 15, 20 young people. I need to give them some fresh pairs of trainers. Whereas a lot of the time it's just from the community. I think the brands always think big. So they'll call you in, go into the Nike office, and they're like, how can we change the world? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm trying to do something here now. They want to do big things because they got that type of funding, so they're thinking big. And then there's departments within departments, so you get called into Nike. Example, like I've spoken to Nike or been called in about 3 or 4 times, all different departments. None of them know each other. You know what I'm saying? But through the hallways, someone will be like, oh yeah, we were speaking to Risa, and so, oh, we spoke to them as well. It's just different departments. This one deals with like branding, sports, the athletes and stuff. So like there's someone in there who thinks some of these athletes, they don't even take all these trainers. Let me call Reso and give some to Reso. Then you've got someone who deals with community work with Nike, and they're like, we giving football boots and stuff to a lot of community projects. Let me contact Reso. But the people who deal with athletes and community, they're not in the same building. They don't talk. They don't know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So the brands, it's all right. It's okay to go in there and see how they work, and to see like their ethos and how they build organizations. It's always nice to be in that type of space. But at the same time, it's not the core work that we do. I think for us it's more regular donations from sneakerheads and from people, especially the sneakerhead community. They're the ones, because they're the ones that buy the latest drop, every drop that comes out. They're the ones that's got like 400 to 500 pairs of trainers, and they every year they just add on to that. So every time they're adding on, they need to get rid of some. You know what I'm saying? So they're the ones that's always bringing, and then also the grandparents who are buying loads of kit trainers for their grandkids, and they're not coming, and then they're not really wearing them, and so it's always coming from a different type of person, and it always helps, man.
So like, I want to ask, like, and this is where the learning comes in. So like, this would have started off as an idea, or like an idea or a dream. What steps did you take to go from that kind of just idea, I want to do this, to where you are now?
I think it's just the implementation, man. I think when I first thought about Reso, I think I offered it to Abu Bakr. I was like, there's this project I think that'll work well for the spot to do something here in the UK. Because obviously we went to Gambia. I went to see when they were building the mosque at the orphanage, and then came back in. I said, no, we need to do something. I think Spot should do a project here. So I was like, yeah, I think we should give shoes back to the homeless community. I think that's something that I always come across, and I think their shoes are always in bad condition. I think we should do something like that. Because I had a lot of shoes at the time, so I was thinking I want to give some away, but I think we need to do something here and impact our community. But he was busy at the time, too much things was going on, so it could have been an easy just to be like, let's just move on. But I was just like, no, let me start implementing today, because he was like, we can do that in a year, and I was like, no, it has to be done now. The timing is now. It's not because the passion and the inspiration behind it is here now. In a year's time, I know how life is. There's a lot of things going on. You might not even be in the country, you know what I'm saying? Might not be alive. So first thing I done, just got my shoes and started to distribute them, and then I think from there it just kind of grew into, okay, first and foremost is why I always say that if Allah wants something to work, Allah will show you. You know what I mean? So I said, I'll do this, and if Allah thinks it's a good idea and there's benefit in it, then it will grow, and then we'll take it from there. But I feel like when things are growing and are progressing, but the first thing to do is actually just make the action, man. You have to take action. I feel like a lot of the times we want things to be easy, and we want it to be in a space of comfortability. Like we just want it. Like we want to say, like, yo, man, I got a great idea with A, B, C, and like whatever, and everyone says, yeah, that's sick. Let's do it. No one's gonna say that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are gonna be like, oh, I don't know. You know, that sounds strange, man. Or that sounds difficult. But how you go? There's gonna be all the doubts are gonna come in. But how are you gonna do that? Nah, that's gonna be mad. Where you gonna store it? So everything's gonna come. Yeah. And if you can't get past your man, then you're finished. You're done.
I think just on that, like I was listening to another podcast, like a business related one the other day, and it was a brother from kind of Ends himself talking about how he thinks it's like a disease among kind of black men, that a lot of the time they tell people things almost because they're looking for someone to kind of tell them it's not going to work. Yeah. So they feel that kind of self defeatist mentality.
But that's the trauma. That's trauma passed down from slavery. Yeah, man. Because that action is an action of slaves trying to escape a plantation, and someone on that plantation telling them we're not going to make it.
Just hold me back.
That's what it is. It's like, don't escape, don't do it. If they catch you, we're all going to get it. Because when one person tries to escape, the whole plantation gets it. And that's just that behavioural passed down through generations of don't do it. There's always going to be that from our community, because that's where we were in it. We were when you're in that place of, you know, and it happens in work. You might be in a workspace, there's 3 or 4 mandem in there doing certain things. You think, no, this manager's taking a piss. Someone might say, no, don't say nothing, because he thinks you say something, he's going to be hard on all of us. And that's that thing that we get. And I feel like a lot of the time, I don't know, I think we're apologetic about the traumas that we have in our community due to systematic racism, and we shouldn't, because the stats are out there. It's not something we're making up. Even though people want to make us feel like we're making this stuff up, but it's not like, cool, there's stats like, you know, black children are like 4 or 5 times more likely than any other child, you know, in hospital to get bad treatment once they're born. Child's not even born, and that stat is on its head. And that's not black children from poor, just black children. Don't matter if your dad is Barack Obama, don't matter if you're from, that's a stat that exists, that as soon as you're born, the likelihood that you're going to get treated worse than any other child born on your ward is this. And it's against you already. So if these stats and figures are there, then we shouldn't act like, oh, he's just making it up, or he's always pulling the black card. No, this is just the reality, because the system was put into play to put us into a certain position. And once they got comfortable, they never took that system out. That system's never been destroyed, you know what I mean? It's still been there. They've tried to cover it up and tried to change. For example, something as simple as reparations to slave owners. Something as simple as, we're going to stop slavery, but everybody who is a slave owner, we're going to pay you compensation.
Say sorry for taking your slaves.
We're taking your slaves away. And we're going to pay you that money, and we're going to pay it to your ancestors. And then they paid that up all the way up until 2015. That's just 7 years ago.
Money, that's a reminder that you need to be paid to not enslave black people.
Yeah, and this is why David Cameron was under pressure, because David Cameron was one of the ancestors receiving that money. So up until 7 years ago, him and his family are receiving money for slavery, for not having slaves. And then want to come as a prime minister and tell us about equality? What the heck are you talking about? So then when people like us start complaining and say, what are you talking about? No, I'm going to work or live in an environment where my prime minister is being paid compensation for owning slaves. Like, are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, so I feel like a lot of the time, for me, when I see our community, or I see black brothers or sisters not having the strength to kind of fight the statistics that are in front of us, I don't look down upon them. I just feel like you're still healing. Some of us have just healed better. Do you know what I'm saying? But you're still in your healing process, and you need a way out, or you need help to kind of oversee it. Because sometimes people say, oh, them man, they just don't want to do nothing, man. They're like, the brother's healing, man. He's like, because what we went through as a group of people, or as a nation of people, is no one's really had to go through that. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you understand that people are sick, so example, one thing is, I never ever I never talk over my Caribbean brothers, anyone from the Caribbean, about the pain that they have. When they diss Africa, I'm like, cool, you got every right. I don't jump out my seat and start saying no, because what happened to you is you were stolen from a land. It's like example I always say to people, children that are stolen at birth, who then see their parents 30 years later and deny them parents and say, you are not my mum and dad, I was raised by someone, so I don't know what you're talking about. You can't look at that child and say that child is nuts, what's going on with you, because they have no recollection of being connected to you. You're telling them that they were stolen at birth. That's a shock to the system. They're like, what are you talking about? You're my mum and dad. Like, this is who raised me. They're like, no, they stole you. They're still going to have a love and a connection to those people who stole them and raised them as their parents, because they don't know no different, right? Yeah. Because that's how they were, and that's the Caribbean. So when we're telling them, you lot are African, they're like, what are you talking about, I'm African? Like, when? I've never seen that place. I've never been that place. I don't know anyone that talks a language like that. You lot are just telling me what? It's not. That's not how you do it. You can't just tell someone who's been through that level of trauma that this is who you are. You got to break it down. You got to let them have time to figure it out. Yeah, and to understand it and to get through it. So for me, man, dealing with people from the Caribbean who understand, who are now, as time has gone on, more information, a lot of them will tell you, yeah, I'm African, man. They'll tell you, I'm Ghanaian, everything. It wasn't like that. Because they were going through trauma. They didn't have the connections. They didn't know what was going on. And we were just, no, you're African. You're African. They're like, nah, brother, I'm not African. And that's, again, a child who's been stolen from their family, and you're just saying, no, you're my child. They're going to continue to say to you, I'm not your child. I don't know who you're talking about. They'll call police, everything. You're this strange man following me around, saying that I'm his child. So I think these are the things that a lot of the time we might face in organizations and business. People, even our own, we talk down on our other black brothers and sisters. These lot don't want to do business. These lot are just, their heads stuck in the wrong place. They're caught up. They're blah, blah. They're healing, man. A lot of us are still healing.
Let's go back. So obviously you're talking about, before I kind of dragged us away, talking about you wanted to do it something with the orphanage in Gambia. You spoke to Abubakar. He said kind of not right now. So let me start my own thing. So like, what were the kind of next steps?
For me, it was just making things happen, right? So you want to give shoes out. I feel a lot of the time we procrastinate about just making things happen. Do you know what I mean? You want to do something. You want to, I don't know, open up a burger shop, start cooking burgers and start selling it. It doesn't matter how it looks like. Stop talking about it.
See that message, that message. You think what you said is basic, but that's not basic, you know?
Yeah, but people always want to just make it big and like, oh yeah, my packaging's going to look like this. But you can't, have you made a burger yet? You know what I'm saying? Does anyone like it? Like, try it. Because for me, had I done resole and distributed the shoes and it didn't go nowhere, we wouldn't be here today. Do you know what I'm saying? I had to put it out there and see what the feedback was and to understand, okay, cool. So I've given some shoes out, and the man them said, right, I heard you was giving shoes out. You know what, I got bare shoes, come and get mine. I done that. I done a couple more. You know what I mean? And I said, okay, cool. I need to, because it's on my social media too much. I said, I need to take it away from it. This is not my life. This is just a project. Let me see if other people want to support it, but I don't want it to be coming through all my own personal page. You know what I mean? So I thought, let me create something. I need a name. I need to brand it. I need to try something. And then from there, I think within the first 4 or 5 months of actually doing it, then I think the Metro, or someone from the Metro contacted me and said, yeah, I saw what you're doing. Because again, these reporters or journalists or whoever they are. They're from our community, bro. They're on social media. They're a part of us. Like sometimes I deal with people who work, I don't know, in different, I don't know, like Sky or something. And they'll be like, yeah, man, I live in Stockwell. I work for this department in Sky. I like what you're doing. I'm going to speak to our producers. Would you come and do something? So they're in the community. So if you're working and doing things in the community, these people live with us, you know what I mean? It's just their occupation of the job that they do. So from that, we've done, we've been in the newspaper, and then from that, it just kind of started to just go faster and faster. But again, it was just actually just doing it. I feel like whenever you've got an idea, I think the worst thing you can do is sleep on it. Just do it, man. Just like put it into place as soon as possible and see where it takes you. Because if you see that it's gaining some traction or it's worth its while, then start thinking about these other things. But don't get too caught up about, example, look at Yeezy, like Kanye West's brand. He doesn't have a logo. Now, where would he be if he's still waiting for his logo? These things,
I've never even thought that, you know.
Yeezy don't have a logo.
I've never even thought that.
He's just Adidas that he makes it with, but the tongue's always plain. Like, what's Yeezy's logo?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But people are all, and that's his thing. His whole branding is just, his whole clothing is plain. It doesn't have no logos on it. But some of us just get stuck on the logo. The logo. The logo. It doesn't look right. No, it has to be this color. It has to look like, bro.
I'm just thinking of the group chat before we recorded the podcast. How long did we argue about?
Yeah. All of that. Just,
no, it's true.
But what's the brand? Does it look like? Is that, like, example, even the podcast, does the conversation work? Have you tried it? Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's make it happen. I feel like if you get too caught up on it, it's a problem. That's like me. When I deal with graphic designers, they love it. Because I always say to them, your job is to design. Don't ask me no questions. Go and design. Bring me back 3 designs. From those 3, one of them's going to be mine. I'm not going to make you do 10, 20. I said, you've studied, your whole trade is to design. And you're going to take information from a man that hasn't done no trade. Like, I got nothing in design. You know, some people that, that don't look right. What do you know, bro? What have you studied in that field? You know what I'm saying? So whenever I deal with my designers, this is what I always say. Whenever I deal with people that do like designs for me, logo, I always just go away, do your work. They come back to me and they know it. So they think it's not easy money, but they like to work with me. And because of that, you start to gain good relationships with people. Do you know what I'm saying? Not making life too difficult. Because like you said, Nike's just a tick at the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying? And Adidas is just three stripes. So where are we going with us thinking we have to do something? It doesn't have to be that difficult. And I just feel like that's one of the things that I think keeps us back more than anything, is the procrastinating about, should I do it? Should I do it? What did this person think? Listen, there's like 7 billion people on the planet. You only need, 500,000 to support your thing or to be a part of it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And if you can, and that's what, 0.0 what, do you know what I'm trying to say? And now we have, and I always tell people they're branding, do you think it's going to work? I said, listen, how many people are on Instagram? And how many of them do you really need to be with you for your thing to actually be worthwhile? It's not a lot of people when you look at it. You know what I'm saying? You can start sending things all over the world just from just being on the gram. You know what I mean? You post something and man from flipping, like, I'll post something. I'll post something on Resale and someone from like, I don't know, people from Korea will just message, whoa, cool, man. Quickly, you know what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't available before without mad advertising. So now that individual is able to then purchase whatever you have and what you want to do. So for me, Resale, to stay on that as well, not to leave that, is that I wanted to create a brand, but I wanted to work backwards. And that's one of the things that I've done. And I think you'll start to see it as the organization grows. Because I said to myself, if Nike or Adidas or Puma had a charity, how would it look like? And they all have charities, they have foundations, right? So my thing is that Resale, what you see now is Resale community. It's the foundation, it's the charity aspect of a brand. But rather than create a brand and then tell people, if you support my brand and my product, I'm going to do this amazing charity work in about 4 or 5 years. People are like, whatever, everyone says that. Just, you know what I mean? So I'm like, let me do the work. So when I was doing, get on with it. So I started with the charity aspect of it. And as time goes, we're going to start creating Resale products. You know what I'm saying? And then we're going to create a Resale, inshallah, and a Resale online app that then connects the products, the charity, and another aspect of the sneaker industry. And then you'll see it work backwards, because the products are gonna have respect on the basis of what the charity has done.
The credibility is
The credibility is there.
there.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Undoubted, yeah.
Example. So our first product release are sports socks, tennis socks. You know what I'm saying? And off the back of the work that we done, people like Foot Locker are like, we want to put them in our stores. How do we go about that? You know what I'm saying? How do we make that happen? And that's again because you said credibility. Do you know what I mean? So there's people that's like, okay, I'll put you in front of Primark. I'll put you in front of, Sports Direct. Whenever you're ready, you got your product, let me know. They're only saying that because they know what Reso's done as a charity, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was important. And the charity aspect, you don't need money to do it. You just need to have a drive and a passion and a community behind you. And my mentor, he always says to me, if I forget it, it's impact, influence, income. That's it, impact, influence, income. And he says if you impact your community the right way, and the impact is that, but you do something, you will influence enough people after to want to do what you're doing. And it goes, once you influence people, it goes, the income will come. Don't chase the income. Don't worry about that, because it goes, once you have influence, it just brings money towards you, because you make, so it goes, and when we're having this conversation, he's breaking it down to me because I don't see it. And he goes, your impact is that you give the shoes. Your influence is that you got thousands of people also wanting to donate these shoes so you can give them out. So you've done the two that you need to do. Because if you continue to sustain that, what happens after that is that those powers at B will pay you to sustain that, because it's something that's needed. They don't want it to disappear. You're filling a problem or something within the sector that needs to stay there, and that's what's happened. That's what's happened as time has gone to where we are now, and how Reso is today in Brixton Village. That came from Taylor McWilliams, who's a billionaire who bought Brixton Village for £40 million. He's an American-based billionaire, and he's redeveloping the whole of Brixton. And he just called me one day and said, look, I saw you on TV, I like the work that you do, I want you to come into Brixton Hub and to open your first store, and blah blah blah. We took it for that, and I was like, okay, 1 minute, I'll speak. I was like, okay, cool, no problem, this your number, I'll call you back. Got on Google, Taylor McWilliams, let me see who this guy is. And it comes up, billionaire, American based.
He randomly called you out of the blue.
Yeah, randomly said, I got your number from one of the councillors in Lambeth. And then we went from there, and then we have conversations. And again, so for me, even having a relationship with someone like Taylor is cool, because he's a billionaire who jumps on the tube whenever he comes from his offices in Shoreditch, Soho I should say. He just jumps on the tube with like, yeah, Musa, I'm coming down, let's catch up. I always used to say to him, how long traffic? He goes, no, I'll jump on the tube. But you'd never know. Just a normal white guy, early 40s, blue woolly type of jacket, hoodie underneath, ponytail, just cutting through. Sure, yeah, simple, no hype, comes from good stock. But again, it's different to what we think money looks like, or how money behaves. And he's always asking, like, example, when he bought Brixton, he said, look, I bought it a while ago, I've got investors. He will ask questions. What do you think this will be good to bring to Brixton? Do you think, like, he's always learning, he's always asking me, and I just think, what are you asking me about? You invested £40 million into this thing, well, what have I got to offer you? But what we do have to offer, again, that I learned from my mentors, is that we have social currency. And that social currency is that we're from a community that they're trying to buy into. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to buy into Brixton, we're from there. He doesn't understand it. So when he walks around Brixton with me and the people know the work that I do, people stop me, they don't stop him.
Yeah.
So he feels it. Where everywhere we're going, Musa, what's going on? Yeah, what's it? I love the work that you're doing with the charity, boom, boom. He's trying to buy that. He wants that. Because when he builds these buildings and people say he's what's that word? Gentrifying Brixton. He wants to be able to say, nah, man, I'm cool, man.
I'm about the people.
Yeah, I'm about the people. I'm not like that. But he can't buy that. He has to be a part of it. He has to be with those people. So you have to know what that's worth to you as well.
Do you see that as a problem?
Gentrification, what's that?
No, well, not really gentrification, but I guess him trying to buy that social currency.
It depends. No, yeah, I think he can't buy it. He has to be about it. But then it's about the steps that he takes that you have to identify as an individual. Is he about this life? Because people with his type of money don't move the way he moves. They have someone else call you. and you still get gassed.
Yeah.
Forget about him calling you. Just him, he's advisor or he's, you know what I mean, his assistant saying, yeah, I'm calling you on behalf of Taylor McWilliams, blah blah blah, would like to invite you to Brixton. That alone should get you excited, right? It doesn't have to be him.
It would for me.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're thinking, who's this billionaire, his assistant's calling me. That alone, you don't have to hear directly for him, but for him to just call you, mobile phone number, and it's not even private, it's just his number there, you know what I mean? Having that conversation again just allows you to know he's about it, he wants to be about it, he wants to learn. And from our early meetings, like I done a sneaker event, and I didn't do it, I was invited to one, and it was like an award show, and I just said, yeah, I'm been invited to an award show, I might win the award, come down. And he just turned up, he just rocked up, boom boom, came, sat down, was a part of it, mixing. And again, he's just filthy rich. Doesn't have to be there, his time's money. Even when he's with you, he's looking around every minute because his phone's going off, because you can imagine his minutes and times are and hours are different to ours. But again, I say that to say that if you do what you're doing, people will also look for you as well, right? I've never contacted Adidas, Foot Locker or Puma or any of the sportswear brands that we work with. We've never contacted them. They contact us. They reach out to us. You know, recently Office, the brand, they hit me up on Instagram and like, oh yeah, we like the work you're doing, can we have an email to your founder or to someone who can help us understand and start to work with you guys. They look for you, right? Whereas when you're just starting this, when a lot of the things we do in the community is that when we're trying to start for things, we're looking for people to help us, right? We're like, who can I message in this, and who can
guide me through?
Guide me. Just do your work, and people will find you because people see something in you that they think, yeah, this makes sense, we can make it happen. And you don't have to be at a crazy stage in your organization, your work, but you'll find people. As long as you do the work, there will always be someone who will find, or who whatever you have to offer is what they need, right? So you just have to do the work. And again, for us, when these brands want to give back in the community now, and they go out there and they say, we want to do a community project, we want to give out some brand, some product, the word that keeps on coming back to them on the brand is resell. You know what I'm saying? And that's off the back of just doing the work. Had we just talked about it, like we got this great idea, we're going to give out, great ideas, it's just implementation, man. I'll just say that one of the main things we just got to start doing, guys, is just
doing stuff.
Also the importance of just like letting people know, and this is why I think it's sick and we focus on these type of conversations, not, you know, before I was doing this, and then, you know, because like people need to know that there's power, and there's prospects in doing good.
Of course.
In doing things that are positive, in doing things that are aligned with Islamic values. Right?
Yeah, that's important. And that's important. And it's difficult. We're not going to say, because Shaitan will catch you somewhere else. So you'll do charity, he'll catch you at the charity dinner. Do you know what I'm saying? So like me, like it's difficult. So you always have to be and the first thought as well, like my birth name isn't Musa. I can go in there and just use my Christian name and just be like, let me just fit in here. But I say, if I set
So just set your stall out.
Yeah, from the beginning, they know what time it is. They find white more like and I've seen a lot of people, when people find their name difficult to pronounce, they're just looking for an easy option to get the conversation done. I'm like, no, you're gonna pronounce it. It's Musa. They're like, yeah, it's Musa. What's that? I say it's Muslim. Blah blah blah. We have the conversation. I'm not shy, and I always try to bring that aspect of Islam as much as we try to stay mainstream, but we have to let people know that Resol is founded by Musa, who's Muslim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And this is how we are. And, you know, he prays and he worships and he's married and all of these type of things. And to understand that. And like for me, I like the subtle dawah. I think a lot of the dawah, sometimes we think it has to be
in the face.
No, it don't. It has to be subtle. And this is my main thing. I always say to people, like, how do we know Spider-Man's Christian? How? I always ask people that. How do you know he's Christian? What has he done that's ever made you think that he's Christian? How? What makes you know that Spider-Man's Christian? And that's what I always ask people. And they're like, I don't know. I say, but we know he's Christian, but how? And I say, it's because within the cartoon, or maybe within the series, there might be a church in there or something that we see, that we connect, that if there's a church, maybe he goes to the church, it must be. So I said, how do we make a Muslim? We just put a mosque in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's it. And all of a sudden, people say, well, I've only seen Muslim there. He must be Muslim. You know what I'm saying? And that's the subtle things. It doesn't have to be he's praying, we see him in. No, it's just subtle things. So for me, just the subtle messages. And I always tell people when they want to do like short films and they want to give dawah, and I'm just saying change the subtle things that are normally related to other religions. Change, you know, the church and make it a mosque. You know what I mean? Change the, I don't know, this name and make it to that name. Do you know what I mean? Change the small things. Change the burger shop and make it say it's halal. Just put small little messaging, because this is what they do to us, and we just grow up believing certain things without them. Yeah, that's the standard, that we don't even have to talk about it.
Like if you're nothing, you're Christian.
That's it. So that's the type of things that I like to do, subtle messages and come through.
Man, love continue to put barakah in. So obviously you said you got products that are out now.
Products we're working on to come out, because it's our 3rd year of founding, so we're going to be celebrating our 3rd year, and we're going to release some products with that. So that's the next stage. I think we've done our community, resale community. Now it's time, this year is for the products, and then next year we'll be working on releasing an app, and quite excited about that.
I wanted to obviously my group's soon, and then we're going to wrap there. If I could quickly, it's a bit random, but I think it's a conversation that I just think would be good to have. It's about Black Muslim spaces. The reason I ask this is obviously I know you have had your podcast out previously, Soul Sessions.
Soul Sessions.
And I remember one episode you had there was a conversation about Black Muslim spaces, and obviously it was you had guests. It was more you kind of picking the brains of your guests. But it's a question I wanted to ask you. Obviously you've grown up in London. You've grown up around Muslims. You've grown up around Black Muslims at a time when there's more and more Black Muslims. Probably from when you were kind of starting out, the kind of outside of Brixton, it was all about any Muslim you're finding was Asian. So, in your experience, being around the original kind of London Black Muslim spaces, do you think what do you think the impact of that is on the Black Muslim community? And would you say it's something that's still necessary to have now, or something that maybe we've moved past?
I think Black Muslim spaces are important. I feel like the African community's had it for a long time. I was blessed to accept Islam and go straight to Old Kent Road, Nigerian mosque. So it wasn't alien to me. You know what I'm saying? That was never alien. Then we got the Sierra Masjid in Brixton, on Brixton Road. And then we've had the Somali masjids. And then we've had, the Riva Masjid. But I think what makes a Black Muslim space is it being owned by a Black Muslim. So I think ownership creates these spaces, right? So if it's owned by a Black Muslim, then it just automatically becomes a Black Muslim space, because whenever they do an event, so if a Black Muslim owns what's out there that we say is a massive space, that a lot of people look at, Box Park, or even something I want to look at that's more in the Asian community. If we look at, could be a marriage website. So Musmatch, famous one. Based on who owns it is based on what they start to portray on there, or what they start to push, or the type of advertising they use, and the type of people. They'll try their best to be inclusive, but there's always going to be a default setting based on who they are. So I feel like our spaces will come based on ownership. Do you know what I'm saying? So if Black Muslims own ice cream parlors, for example, dessert shops, it's going to become a Black Muslim space just based on the ownership. If we own, Islamic clothing stores selling phobes and different things, and it's Black Muslim owned, it's going to become a Black Muslim space. And I feel our lack of ownership is why we don't have these spaces. Because we're going into spaces that are owned by different groups of people, but we want them to cater to us. It's just never going to make it work. Do you know what I'm saying? They will cater from what they were raised on and what they know and what they understand. So we're turning up to an event that's created and led by different cultures of people, even though that they're Muslim, and we're upset that it's only biryani to offer. Why are you upset? What would you expect? What do you expect? It's like them coming to,
Nigerian Muslim.
And saying there's no biryani there, what's going on? It's unheard of. And I think, again, that's just us being, I wouldn't say just expecting things, but again, I feel like because the Western society, I'll say white Britain, has been so forthcoming to kind of make us feel comfortable, so we don't really do anything for ourselves. That
a little bit of a victim mentality as well.
Yeah, so that we just expect it to be there for us. Well, they do it, so why aren't you doing it? Nah, that's you got to do for self. So I feel like ownership will create more Black Muslim spaces. I think some of the spaces that we're seeing now, and that's because people from our community have started to create their own spaces. They're creating their own podcasts. They're creating their own spaces for sisters to come and conversate. They're creating their own open sessions for conversation, whether it, different things. But because it's owned by us, it now becomes a Black Muslim space. Do you know what I mean? So I just feel like what we need to do is just push more ownership, and like you said, to push it in a variety of things rather than just be
Just one thing.
one thing and tunneled and just be like, we got to do this and do this only. That's what becomes problematic, because in anything that you do, you can add culture to it. Even like hijama, I'm sure if there was someone, if it was like, done by a Black person who was cultured, they might bring some African vibe to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the way they dress it up and how it is, and the type of, rather than use the glass ones, they might use the horns, and you know what I mean? All of a sudden you start feeling a bit of Africa in the building. You know what I'm saying?
The beads and
the beads and stuff. And then you start thinking, this is like it's a hijama joint. Something. But we need to own that then, because you're not going to expect another group of people to do that other than ourselves. So I think if we push ownership, these spaces will come. And I think because we've been working for people, because education is all about working for people, being educated enough to work for someone. You know what I'm saying? And all of us agree to that. As everyone says, that entrepreneurs don't need to be educated, but those that work for them do. You know what I mean? And that's what we see all the time. So I feel like if you want to be an entrepreneur, go out, do your thing, make it happen. If you just want to work for an entrepreneur, then you're going to have to do his running around that he hasn't got the time to do. He's busy making things happen. So you have to go to school and study for 4 years to come and make his thing successful, because he's the one that's taking the risks to really make the things happen. He's not going to go and do the 4 years worth of studying, because then who's going to take it off the ground? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like our community just have to allow our young people to be more risk takers and to be more able to just build their own businesses and stuff like that. And that's what I push for my kids and stuff like that. I'm not really too bothered about secular education to be. I think the best type of education I would like to say is the Quran, and I feel like every aspect of life is taught in that book. Every aspect. If you want anyone to understand trade, business, love, hate, happiness, war, it's all there. So if there's anything we need to push for, is that to be learned. If someone learns that, then they can come back. And that's why I feel like a lot of brothers that I met, or who I know, he wasn't too pushed up on education. After they learnt Islam and they learn it as a student, they come back and say, I want to do education. Do you know what I mean? Because they've learned certain things I thought, from the Quran, I thought, I do want to be educated in this field. Whereas before they wasn't really interested in it. But Islam unlocks certain things, and I think it will unlock in our community those who want to be entrepreneurs, those who want to be, go down the education route. But I think we need to really push that and allow that to be the thing that kind of opens up the hearts and minds of what a person wants to do.
It will give you a purpose.
Real purpose.
I want to be that because of this. For a good reason. Not. No, mashallah, barakallahu man. That's man. We'll leave it there. Is there anything you want to plug? Any kind of?
No, man. Just other than just support the brothers, subscribe, as they say. You know what I'm saying? Share, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? And just support the brothers, man. I think it's important for us to support ourselves, support our communities, and just to push. I think nothing happens overnight. As you guys grow, I'm sure everything grows with you. The way you deliver the message, your surroundings, your equipment, that's just natural. But I feel like we always say, if you see how Nike started, you wouldn't believe where they are today. You know what I mean? So we all have to start somewhere. But a lot of us want to start as, Jordan 1s, how they are today. Nobody wants to start how like the Forrest Gump ones, what are they called again? That they used to deal with, the ones Forrest Gump used to wear. Well, they're not blades. What are they called?
Nah, I know what you're talking about.
Nobody wants to wear them. That's how Nike started. It didn't start with the Jordans and how we see. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we have to start somewhere.
High tech first.
We got to. And we got to kind of support when it's that, to be able to enjoy what it is today. If nobody supported Nike then, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the products they have now, or Adidas, whatever brand it is. So I feel like if people want to be able to enjoy you guys when you're at your best, then they got to support now. You know what I mean? And that's important.
You heard it.
You heard it.
It's not us saying it.
It's not me this time.
It's important.
Yeah, man. But I'd like it to you to increase you.
I mean,
and all your endeavors, man.
I mean.
Yeah, man. We'll leave it there. I don't need to plug because all the plugging has been done in a way that is better than I can do. So with that, all I'll say is assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
ولما قسى قلبي وضاقت مذاهبي جعلت رجائي دون عفوك سلما تعاظمني ذنبي فلما قرنته بعفوك ربي كان عفوك أعظما فما زلت ذا عفو عن الذنوب لم تزل تجود وتعفو منة وتكرما